Vikings beating the Indianapolis Colts tonight to get off to Schneid. It was a little touch and go there for a minute, but I'm glad the Vikings end up getting it done. Sam Darnold ended up playing a little bit of inconsistent football, but found a way to make some plays down the stretch and help the Vikings get the W. I was a little bit worried, to be honest with you, when I heard that Joe Flacco was going to be starting. Obviously, I followed Joe Flacco last year with the Cleveland Browns, and Joe Flacco taking over for Richardson posed a little bit more of a daunting task for B-Flow's defense because he's been there, done that, seen all different types of defense. But this was the first time in a long time where I thought Joe Flacco looked really old out there. I thought late in the game, B-Flow did a great job of putting the heat to him in terms of blitzes, especially at the end of the game, and Joe Flacco just could not move. He survived a lot on little short dump off, swing pass. He threw a little bit down the field, but not too much. And I thought the Minnesota Vikings defense really showed up. Hats off to Cam Robinson coming in on Tuesday and haven't really been with the Minnesota Vikings for a long time. I thought he held up admirably, had the one holding call during the game, but he did a nice job in terms of filling in for Christian Darrisaw. The Minnesota Vikings look good. I'll tell you one thing that I really liked that I saw tonight. KOC and the fellas, they did a great job in terms of that up-tempo offense. I think they should keep that. That's right, Two-Tone. We're 6-2, baby. We're 6-2. I'm telling you right now, man, I really, really like the up-tempo offense that KOC had implemented tonight, the no huddle. At times it got inconsistent, but I think that's something that really has a lot of potential for the Minnesota Vikings going forward. I just really like the speed. I like the pace of it. I thought Aaron Jones ran really hard tonight. And then a guy coming off the bench. What do you guys think about Cam Akers? I mean, before it had been Ty Chandler getting a lot of the second string reps when Aaron Jones would go out of the game. But my guy, Cam Akers, came in, and I thought he had some really, really good runs, ran hard. And, in terms of people were saying that Cam Robinson is not a good run blocker, I thought he did pretty decently tonight. I thought the offensive line was spotty, but when they needed to make plays, they really, really made plays. KOC tonight really incorporated Jordan Addison into the game plan, some reverses, had him on some screen plays, and then the nice touch pass into the end zone. Jordan Addison, that should tide him over. Everybody was speculating whether or not he was happy or not. If, free three, whether he was getting enough touches tonight. Well, I think KOC implemented him into the game plan. Along with our guy, Jets, I thought he had a really good game tonight. Didn't get into the end zone, but I know he was targeted a couple times in the end zone. They just couldn't get the ball to him. But I thought he made an impact as well. And I was interested to see what my guy, TJ Hawkinson, was going to do tonight. He was basically that insurance policy for Sam Darnold. When things were covered, he ran those drag routes across the middle. And he was kind of that safety net for Sam Darnold all night. I thought Sam Darnold hit him when he had an opportunity. And that helped some of those drives stay alive. The one thing that the Vikings have been doing is they have been implementing Oliver as a pass-catching tight end. When we got him from the Baltimore Ravens, everybody was talking about he's a run blocker. He's a run blocker. I've always thought that he's had the opportunity to be able to pass catch as well. And over the past few weeks, especially since TJ Hawkinson has been out, he has become more and more of a pass catcher for the Minnesota Vikings. And I think when you can have two pass-catching tight ends along with two guys that can really block and enforce that offensive line, I think you really got something there with Oliver doing what he's doing. And as, TJ Hawkinson gets up to speed coming back from his ACL injury, I think that's going to be a formidable duo. The Minnesota Vikings didn't play their cleanest game. They didn't play their best game. But sometimes when you have games like that, you got to find a way to win. And I thought the Minnesota Vikings did a great job of finding a way to win this ball game. So I'm going to take it. There's going to be lots to criticize in terms of the Minnesota Vikings, but will you take the dub? Will you take the dub? I'm going to take the dub because that moves the Vikings to 6-2. Here's the cherry on top of the Sunday, along with a Green Bay Packer loss to the Detroit Lions. A lot of the Packers' rivals, the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions, they're going into Lambeau and winning games. Everybody wants to go to Lambeau now because it seems like the Green Bay Packers can't really protect home field advantage. And the Detroit Lions, again, looking awesome today in the rain. Dan Campbell's talking about his team is built to play anywhere, whether it's in the mud, whether it's in the snow, whether it's in the rain, and they look like it today. But the Vikings, they have to keep on keeping on because that last game of the season, that last matchup with the Detroit Lions is going to be an awesome show, especially if we can get on a winning streak now. We got this one tonight. We got 3 more winnable games as well in front of us. So the Minnesota Vikings are definitely going to have to try to keep this winning streak going. The one thing about the Minnesota Vikings, again, I talked about the up-tempo play that they had tonight, the no huddle. Man, we've got to be one of the worst screening teams on the planet. Anytime we try to go side to side, instead of going vertically down the field, whether it's a screen play or some sort of swing route, we never can block it. I don't know if our offensive linemen can get out there and block it or not, but we seem to always have trouble with those type of plays. And I know KOC comes from that McVay tree, and I know that they're huge on those screen passes in terms of those screen plays, but that hasn't really been adopted here with the Minnesota Vikings. Maybe that's something that they definitely can work on. I thought it was great to see my guy Dallas Turner out there. I know everybody was, really looking at where's Dallas Turner for the past few weeks. I saw they put the NASCAR lineup out there, and he was in there. I saw him on various coverage plays. So, of course, they're trying to implement Dallas Turner into the fold, and I thought he played really, really well tonight for the Minnesota Vikings, getting some time. I mean, the Minnesota Vikings defensively, man, they were lights out. They kept the Colts out of the end zone, and everybody had been talking about, people have figured out Brian Flores' defense. And I had gone on various podcasts, and I've said, I don't think it's as easy as teams figuring out B-flow. Number one, they played a really good offense in the Detroit Lions. Then they came back on a short week with the Rams, and had to deal with their wide receivers that they interjected at the last minute on us. And I thought, those two teams did a really good job, again, of just staying on schedule, where the Colts tonight just couldn't do that. Taylor really couldn't get his running game going. And I think that's one of the keys to beating a B-flow defense, but they really couldn't stay on schedule. They put the Colts in situations where they had to pass the ball a lot. And again, when the Minnesota Vikings can pin their ears back and do the things that they do in terms of illusion and creating pressure, they're one of the best defenses in the league. And I think you definitely saw that tonight from the Minnesota Vikings. Again, just overall, not the best game for the Minnesota Vikings, but they did a fantastic job. Again, just to spotlight some players. Cam Robinson, the new guy, came in and just played really well. I thought Harry the Hitman made some really, really good plays down the stretch. Jets was Jets. I thought Sam Darnold had some tough throws. Obviously, throwing 2 picks tonight, probably didn't play his best game. But again, when it counted, it counted. I think he has a little bit more intestinal fortitude than, let's say, a Kirk Cousins under these pressure situations. He doesn't always make the best decisions, but the kid keeps coming back for more, and I really, really like his heart. Again, Dallas Turner showed up big today, and I thought the Minnesota Vikings, again, it just feels good to get this dub. It just feels good to get this dub after losing two straight. I don't know what the press would have been like and what the morale of the team would have been like if they would have lost this game, because I thought they controlled the game pretty much. They had a chance to expand the lead multiple times, but it was just key interceptions and then just plays where they didn't really get an opportunity to get first downs and execute like they should. That really kept the Colts in the game. But again, the Minnesota Vikings found a way. So what's next for our Vikes, man? We got, a 3-game road trip coming up, starting with the Jacksonville Jaguars, another beatable team. They've been struggling. I don't think that game is going to be as easy as everybody thinks that game is going to be, because the Jaguars, albeit that they don't have the record, they are a really, really scrappy team, a really, really formidable team. So again, on any given Sunday, they can beat anybody. So hopefully our purple won't go in there and underestimate that team. Again, a great game tonight. I was sitting on pins and needles for a while, but the Minnesota Vikings found a way to get that win. 21-13. Joe Flacco goes 16 for 27 for 179 yards, 1 interception. Jonathan Taylor only accumulating 48 yards on 13 carries. So I think we held, their star players in check. Sam Darnold going 28 for 34, 290 yards, almost eclipsing the 300-yard mark, 3 touchdowns. Again, he's second in terms of throwing multiple games with 3 touchdowns in the NFL. Can you believe that from Sam Darnold? 2 picks. Justin Jefferson gets into the passing column with a trick play, 1 for 1 for 22 yards. Aaron Jones goes for 21 carries, 64 yards. And this may not be sexy stats. But Cam Akers, 6 carries for 46 yards. I thought those 46 yards gave us a nice spell from Aaron Jones, and he did really well. Mel, road to recovery for us? I think it is a road for recovery for us. It's almost like in basketball, when you're off shooting, all you need to do is to see that ball go in the rim, and then everything kind of fixes itself. And I think that's going to be the case for the Minnesota Vikings. I think they have found something. I think TJ Hawkinson, in terms of getting back into football shape, was there tonight. He's only going to get better from week to week. But I really like the up-tempo offense, the no-huddle offense. I think once we get that down, and if that's something that we take into games from week to week with all the weapons that we have on offense, I think, Cam Robinson, I think really bolsters our offensive line. I think our interior is weak from guard, center to guard. I think we give up a lot of plays. Bradbury just got ran over on a couple of plays by some of the Colts defensive tackles. I don't know how we shore that up. I don't know if we keep running backs in the backfield on passing plays to help with some of that pass protection, but they've got to fortify that interior offensive line. Man, if they can do that and give Sam Darnold a little bit more time, because we know he likes to play patty cake with the ball a lot and stare down his receivers, and I think that is why he tends to throw some of those interceptions. I think we're going to be fine. KOC, keep the up-tempo, no-huddle offense. I really, really like that. I mentioned it before early in the podcast, man. I think one thing we need to work on, because I think we're one of the worst teams in the league at this, is throwing those swing passes and those screen passes. It's like our offensive linemen, I don't know whether they're not agile enough to get out there and block some of that stuff, but we always seem to have trouble. It seems like the timing of some of those things is just off a little bit. But KOC, again, coming from that Los Angeles Rams tree, McVay tree, I know those guys like to incorporate some of those screen plays, so hopefully we will get better than that. Got to lock in and be disciplined against penalties, and we should be good. O-line is scaring me. Yeah, I can see you having some concern for the O-line, but I think for Cam Robinson really impressed me tonight. For a new guy that came in on Tuesday, when I saw him during his interview, he said the one thing that he was worried about was the cadence was the cadence of Sam Darnold. That was the main thing that he felt like he had to get down, and everything would kind of fall into place. But I think you're right. The offensive line, in terms of that interior, that is the scary part of the Minnesota Vikings. If we play teams that have really good three technique players, they're just going to give us a lot of trouble. They're going to force that pressure up the middle, which tends to bother Sam Darnold a little bit. So it's definitely something that we've got to try to fortify. Maybe we do it at the trade deadline. I know everybody's been talking about defensive tackle, Dexter Lawrence, and I don't know if we're going to give up number one picks for Dexter Lawrence, but maybe there's an offensive lineman out there. I know Reisner was supposed to come back tonight. I didn't see him out on the field a whole lot, but I think it would be a nice switch to go to Reisner instead of Ed Ingram on the right side of that offensive line. That would help fortify that offensive line a little bit. Maybe that's something that they're thinking about. I know KOC said Reisner was ready to go. I didn't see him a lot, if at all, on the field tonight, but I know that will definitely be an option for the Minnesota Vikings, and I think that will improve their offensive line somewhat. Bradbury got knocked over a few times tonight, and I think we're going to have to go with Bradbury pretty much for the rest of the year, but during the offseason, that's something that we are definitely going to have to change on that Minnesota Vikings offensive line. When you look at all of the weapons that we have, it's pretty scary, but we still tend to have that inconsistent offense. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. I think that's something that's going to have to fix itself. There was one thing that I was really happy to see tonight, something that KOC calls self-inflicted. We didn't have a whole lot of self-inflicteds tonight. I mean, we had a couple, but you guys that watch the Minnesota Vikings, that stuff can come in waves and come in bunches. And I really didn't think that happened tonight. We had some holding calls. I think we had a false start call in there, but it wasn't something that was really chronic. It wasn't something that was really abundant tonight. It wasn't something that really stalled our drive tonight like it did in the Rams game. So I think hopefully they got some of that stuff cleaned up. The offensive side of the ball seemed to be a little bit focused, and that seemed to really play in the hands of the defense because they put a lot of pressure and gave Joe Flacco a lot of looks tonight. Joe Flacco, former Super Bowl MVP, he's seen it all. And so I thought the Minnesota Vikings threw some looks at him tonight that really confused him. I thought that they would blitz him a little bit more, but I thought it was the right balance. They saved a lot of their blitzes when they knew that he was going to be in passing situations, especially at the end of the game. And I thought it was a really, really good job by B-Flow. Didn't let those guys in the end zone one time tonight. The Colts only having one defensive touchdown. So I was really, really proud of that. I'm on the verge of having a heart attack as well because, the one thing I didn't want to do, Mel, was going to next week with another loss. I didn't want to have to listen to the media. I didn't want to have to hear a bunch of excuses. I just wanted to get the dub, but I knew it was ugly from the start. And once the Vikings started to drive down the field on that last drive, and then we threw the touchdown to Oliver, I finally got a chance to exhale and relax. My wife was watching the game with me. She had a chance to exhale and relax, and I knew we had really the game was over. I mean, you could just see it unless something just out of the ordinary happened. We really had a chance to just relax and enjoy this victory. So this is one I'm going to enjoy. We've got all week to kind of pick it apart and try to find critiques and areas where we think the Minnesota Vikings could get better. They didn't play a perfect game, but we got the dub. We just got to find, Mel, like you said, we just got to find that level of consistency. And honestly, this is not a criticism of KOC. This is just the reality of the situation. We really haven't had that consistency in 3 years under KOC. I mean, when you look at, the first quarter to the fourth quarter at the end of the game, there's always those quarters where we just don't seem to play well. And we got to figure that stuff out because you're right. The consistency of everything is huge. We're going to need that when we play some of the stronger teams in the NFC, especially if we think this team is good enough to make a playoff run. When we play the Detroit Lions or the San Francisco 49ers in the playoffs, we've got to have consistent play. Because as soon as we have one of those dry spells, we have one of those dry quarters, that could legitimately cost us the game. And so the Minnesota Vikings have to get that together. Tonight, man, was just about a whole lot of baby steps. It was a whole lot of baby steps. It was getting the run game going. It was incorporating a new offensive lineman. It was incorporating TJ Hawkinson back into the fold. It was, our defense getting back on track after having two mediocre or lackluster games. It was just a few baby steps. We talk about the self-inflicteds that KOC always talk about. We didn't see a lot of those. So, again, it wasn't the perfect game, but it was a game where we made some baby steps. We got the dub, and I'm just happy about that. I'm looking forward to next week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mel says, just the facts, KLC, I cannot hate him, but there's only so many times we can say we got problems to fix post-game and do nothing about it. I hear you, man. I get so frustrated about it. We got to go back and watch film and clean that stuff up. And then the next week, it's the same deal. I agree with you 100%. It's time to stop talking about this stuff and go back to the lab and fix it. At least today, we saw some signs, even though they were just glimmers of them trying to correct a few things. Now, the inconsistency is still there, Mel. The inconsistency is still there. But we, I think we are headed in the right direction. I think, Sam Darnold has got to ease up on some of these bad turnovers. I think he tries to do too much. I think people are starting to see that he's a little bit more mobile than most people give him credit for, being able to escape out of the pocket. I just don't think, at least he's shown to me, that he's not the best quarterback on the run. Like, his accuracy just seems to go down quite a bit when he's on the run and trying to throw the ball. Like, I've seen that several times from Sam Darnold. I think that if he can scramble out of the pocket and get his feet set, I think he's fine. But when he's trying to throw off his back leg or throwing off one foot, the accuracy is just not there. And it's either, since I've been watching him play, it's either an almost a pick or it's either a pick, as you saw a couple of those tonight. And again, in really big games, that's going to hurt him. I think a lot of the, hey, sign Sam Darnold to a multi-year contract, all that talk is cleaned up. And I think, again, he's a fine stopgap. I questioned the move when they first did it. Now that I've had an opportunity to watch Sam Darnold play, I think he's a fine bridge quarterback, but I'm looking forward to J.J. McCarthy. But I'll roll with Sam Darnold for now. He's going to be fine. I think with the tutelage of KOC and the fellas, I think he is going to be absolutely fine. Just here, like it's Back to the Future. Hey, I've seen this one before every post game, but this could be the start of a return to form. Bring out some patch fixes. Absolutely, man. And listen, keep in mind, the trade deadline is just around the corner. So, who knows what Kwesi has cooked up. I wouldn't sell the farm for really any one guy. I don't think you can F them picks like everybody says. That's kind of the foundation, along with, roughly close to 80 mil next year that we have in free agency. I don't think you can mortgage the farm and give up some of those picks unless it's a guy that you're going to have for multiple years that is a impact player at his position. That's when I would think about it, but I definitely wouldn't do it for just anybody. The rumor has it that the Vikings really covet Newsome from the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, you guys know I follow the Cleveland Browns, being from Cleveland. I think Newsome is okay, but I don't think he is. I don't think he's really anything better than what we have in the secondary now. And I definitely wouldn't be giving up picks for Newsome. I just don't think he's that good. But there may, Quasi Cooks, man, there may be some deals out there that we just don't know about, but we'll find that out in the next coming days. Again, the Minnesota Vikings win tonight 21-13. Really, really good game. Really good win for the Minnesota Vikings. I nearly had a heart attack tonight because I didn't want to see the loss. Mel, thanks for checking in. Two-Tone, thanks for checking in. We're going to have my guy Patrick Buchanan hopefully back this week on the podcast. We'll get a chance to talk about this game and preview the next game with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, Minnesota Vikings winning tonight, 21-13. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and I will make sure to see you when I see you. Latre, take us home.
I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm a man? Am I losing my mind? Am I wasting my time? Do I know who I am?